And welcome to the Fun Shoot podcast,
Yay!
where I talk to image makers and light shapers about artistry and entertainment and everything in between. I'm very, very honored to have one of the people that I admire the most on the podcast chair. Um, she left her corporate job at Amazon in New York City in the summer of 2018 to pursue an adult gap year to satiate her curiosities. Her experience during those last few months further solidified her intuition of leaning into her love of creativity and play. So, I'd like to welcome Miss Tawn.
Yay!
All right. So there's a lot of things to unpack in your bio.
Oh,
Tawn.
God. I'm still unpacking them.
And most of it just happened the past year.
Yes.
So you did your gap year.
I'm still in my gap year.
Yep.
I started end of July 2018. It is now April. I guess when the time it comes out, it'll be May.
Yeah.
So I'm still there, and I have a few months left, and a shit ton has happened.
Awesome.
And yeah.
All right. And then within that time, just forewarning, a slight discussion that we'll have a little bit later is you also had an unexpected death of your father.
Yes,
So
yep.
it's kind of like bad experience, but good-ish
Yes,
timing. So that's something that is a
yeah.
good topic for later.
Yeah.
We're gonna break down your gap year because I'm very curious on
Yeah.
how do people do said things.
Yeah, for sure.
You'll have comic illustration,
Yes.
social media presence, sticky situations.
Yes, that is out. That's kind of like my playful side because I was doing it on my Instagram, and then I was like, should I break this out into its own thing? And everyone's like, yes, it needs to be in its own thing. So now it's its own thing.
And it's funny. So
Good, I'm glad.
a few of those were like, only this type of person can
Yeah.
do this type of joke. So I'm
Yeah.
very happy about comedy like
yeah,
that.
good.
And not lastly, but most recently, you're practicing Reiki.
Yeah, so weird.
So you
I'm
were.
like all over the place right now.
I have a little bit of like inside information about Tom because we were co-workers
Yes.
in Amazon for a very long time.
Yeah, for 4.5 years.
4.5 years.
Yeah.
I followed her career. She was both a colleague, a role model, a buddy, a person that you can rant to. But you, in a way, you had a global corporate position.
Yeah, traveling all the time.
Traveling all the
not
time.
sleeping.
Having friends all over the world,
Yes.
doing so big projects.
Yeah,
Then you do your gap year.
yeah,
Then you do your comic.
yeah.
Then you do your Reiki.
Yeah.
And that's just the past couple of years because I know
Yeah.
you did improv and comedy.
Yeah.
Did your own videos years ago.
I did those years ago, and then corporate life took over.
Mm.
And then it was just like, I love doing improv, but the passion that I had wasn't at the level at where a lot of my, I guess, teammates were. Theirs was like hardcore. They would work their job, then they would go out, and then they'd be up all night performing in the bars, wherever, in the clubs, and still be able to get to their 9 to 5 job. And I just couldn't hack it. Like
Oof.
I couldn't hack it at all. And I was just like, I'm tired all the time. By the time we would get to practice or by the time we would have a show, I'd be super tired. And I can't, for me, I can't spread myself like that. Some people can do it. I can't do it.
And that's a big part of the thrust of this podcast also is to just talk about different people's processes. Some people can handle 16,000 things at the same
Yes.
time. Some people just specialize and hone in one.
Yeah.
And I like hearing all those stories.
Yeah.
And good segue before
Yeah.
we start, a little housekeeping.
Yeah.
So you can listen to the Fun Shoot podcast most Wednesdays on all of your favorite podcasting services. Visit the podcast website at jongclemente.com/funshoot or bit.ly/funshootpodcast for short. Don't like listening to the thing and you just want to watch things at work or wherever? Lucky for you, we're on YouTube. Just go to bit.ly/funshoot.tv and you'll see if we do have video of the guests that I have, you can see them in person. Cool. Please follow the pod Twitter and Instagram accounts at Fun Shoot Podcast. Comment, Send us inquiries, topics that you want us to discuss in the future, follow up questions to our previous guests. And you can also send in your comments and questions directly to funshootpodcast@gmail.com. If you do want to participate, want to be on the show, leave us a voicemail at 347-934-9594. And if it's appropriate, we'll put it at a good episode. If it's inappropriate, I'm just going to listen to it by myself in bed. So thank you for going through all the housekeeping stuff. Now to our main thing. Back to our guests.
Yes.
So we do have a couple of different segments in the podcast just to organize the things a little bit more.
Cool.
So my hobby and my passion is photography. Most of my things will be photography related. So the first segment is the backdrop. So this is where we, move some furniture around, set up some lights, test out the exposure. So this is where I want you, Tawn, to tell all the listeners out there your origin story. How did you get here? How did you get from well, I'm not gonna say, but I know that you're from the Texas as college. You were in tech. You end up in Amazon. Now you're doing all your adventures. Just give us like a quick rundown of what makes Tawn Lay.
Oh shit, that's a lot. So originally from Texas, born and raised around Dallas, school at UT, Hook 'em Horns. I started out in radio advertising, and what propelled me there was actually looking at the people that I worked with, and I was like, fuck, I don't want to be old and in sales and doing radio. I don't want to be in a dying industry. So what's the next best thing? Digital. So I packed up my bags, came here, New York, about like 8 years ago. And then just got this random job starting as a coordinator within a company, an advertising, actually a pretty big advertising company here. And then from there, just kind of made my way into what we call DSP. You don't need to know what that means.
Demand side platform, guys.
Yeah, you don't need to know what that means.
Programmatic advertising.
Yes, no. Yeah, so I was like, ugh. So then that kind of like propelled me into Amazon, where I did a lot of growing there. And I know people have a lot of shit to say about Amazon, but there's good and bad in every single thing. And I took that experience really well, and I took it. They threw me in there, and I met so many different people. I mean, I worked a shit ton, and you knew me at this point where I was like traveling every single week. I was, in Europe a lot, and then a couple of just back and forth between here, New York, and Seattle. And I wasn't sleeping. Let's just say that. Like, I would get 5 hours of sleep, and I would be the first into work. And we got in pretty early, so I would be some of the first people into work. Definitely the last people out of work. Working on the weekends, traveling. But, as I did meet a lot of people, it was work. I mean, traveling for work is totally different. Your body is just already messed up from the time difference, and then you're having to make up for it, and then you are having to do work with it's just anyways, it's just stressful. And I just remember sitting there and just like I don't even have time to go to dinner with my friends. Like, there's no such thing as happy hour. I was like, what? 5 p.m. happy hour? That doesn't exist here. Like, we got dinners at like 8 p.m.
Yep.
Or later.
Or you can go happy hour and come back to work until 11. Yeah, that's usually the case.
Yeah, and it was at that point where I was just like, and this is, I worked there for 4.5 years, but in by like the second year of working there, I was just like, okay, like, I'm miserable. Like, I have no life. Like, at that time, I lost, breakup and all this other stuff. The good news was that I threw myself into work, and that's exactly what I got. I got working every single day on the weekends, and it just got to the point where I'm like, I don't know what else to do. Yeah. But I was like, I know I had to understand what I loved, and I loved people. I loved working with my coworkers. I loved being a manager. or the parts of manager that I liked was like actually interacting with people and trying to figure stuff out. And I was trying to be a little bit more mindful of time because I didn't have a lot of it. So people talk about meditating. I do that, but I would literally figure out a way to do it at work. And it would sometimes be just go in the bathroom, fucking sit down, and you just do this and you're like, fuck, I feel better. You know?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with hard situations. And yeah, full disclosure, we did work at, one of the bigger startups in the world.
Yeah.
It's a small startup. They
It's
started
it ain't a thing.
So, because the environment is so tough, the work is so hard.
Yes.
And not because we were like...
People weren't dicks most of the time. I would say that. With the group that I had at that time, no one was a dick to me. But it doesn't mean that I didn't work. It was still stressful because it's like, you're trying to prove yourself.
It's a lot of work. And it's not a lot of work because we're hunting for clients. There's a lot of work because there's a lot of people who are throwing money at that business.
And then you're talking about technology. Anytime you talk about technology, you're talking about ongoing changes every single day. There is not one day that's the same. And so you're breaking processes, which is, it's broken the paradigm within our generation when it comes to people working. So now you have one process, one process, or maybe a few processes that you would hold for 6 months, a year, or even longer. Now with this generation, and I'm not saying this is only Amazon, this is everywhere that I've heard.
100%.
It's a new, everything is improving because we want to do it bigger. We want to do it faster. We want to, just the change is happening so rapidly that us as human beings cannot keep up. And it is throwing a wrench into our psyche. It is throwing a wrench into like our mental health, our well-being. And that's something that I keep seeing all over the place is like people are trying to keep up and they're trying to keep up and then they get pissed off when they can't keep up. And then they're pissed off because you're not showing them the right way to keep up. And they're pissed off because their boss is getting like hammered for not meeting their goals or not meeting these new things that they're supposed to implement like downwards.
Yeah, this is tech. And you were 100% right where by the time even a very qualified, very smart person gets to the point where they're comfortable with the processes that they need to do on a day-to-day, they will be introduced with something new.
All the time.
And then it's their fault if they don't. People get tired. We get memory banks. My hard disk space is full, and I'm one of those people that keep on doing newer and newer processes because either finding something a little bit better, testing it if it's better or not. I think that's
great, but I think a lot of people don't know how to handle it.
It's new. There's this is not something taught. Nobody comes into. There's no course in a college that says, "Oh, this is demand side platform."
Or how to deal with constant change. I think that needs to be like a literally a new way of thinking is how to deal with change because that's. To be honest, like even though I am out, it's still a topic and it's still a relevant topic for a lot of people is how to deal with this fast of a change and how to be okay with it. And that comes with overall everything, wellness. It's a change in infrastructure. It's a change in the way of leadership and how it should be done. It's a change. It's just a rehaul of everything.
Yeah, it's new. Everything is super fast. Everybody's trying to do their best, but usually the problem with everybody doing something all at the same time is inevitably, some good things will rise, some bad things will fall, but sometimes some bad things will rise and people will be like, oh, why we're doing this stupid thing? And then everybody's going to be miserable and then people are going to have to fix it. So it's all of this, all weird, big flux of change and butting heads and learning and unlearning and testing and breaking. So it is a lot more stresses on the insides of even a corporate person.
For sure.
Like, people say that, hey, you're a corporate shell. You sit in front of your desk typing away for the big... Yeah, that is...
But it takes a toll. Yeah. You sit all day. Do you know how bad that makes... How being sedentary is so bad for you?
And you're internalizing all the stresses.
You're internalizing everything. You're sitting in one space So your body's like crumbling, it's deteriorating, and we're not addressing that. And I guess it goes into a lot of my interests is just overall wellness. Like, what are the things that we're not talking about? And what are the little things that we do every day that then adds up and just is like, hits you in your health.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's a great segue because we have ranted a little bit about our day job. Day job / night job / weekend job.
Yeah.
Which leads you to what you've been doing for the past year. So there's going to be a link in the description of this episode, as well as on the website or everywhere that you'll find it, to Tawn's article in the Hustle Juice about her half year in this adult gap year. So you provided me with a great rundown, but I want to hear it from your end. Let's just go through what had happened, all the fun things on high level, and we'll pick at the most important things. And I'll probably throw in a wrench or two here and there.
Cool. So again, I took my gap year on July 2018. That was not an easy thing for me to do because I had to save up money. And I also wanted to live in my apartment. And so I, thank you, Amazon money, but that's helped a lot of how I saved. So after I saved, I was like, I just need a year break. And as I was traveling, everyone in Europe keeps talking about taking a gap year before college or before university or after university. I'm like, I never took one.
I've never stopped working.
It's such an American thing not to like take a break. But when you travel and you're meeting people, they're just like, you've never taken a gap year or you've never taken this long of a vacation. And it's like, no. And so that was kind of like my motivation of, you know what? I want to take it I'm way, way past the university days already, but I wanted to just see the world. I wanted to not be stressed out every day. I wanted to do some self-exploration, self-discovery, kind of think like, who am I? Like you've been told what what to do all your life, like go to school, make good grades, go to college, get a job. Do well, save up, get a boyfriend, get married, have some kids, have a nice house, have nice cars. And, people have that. And as I'm looking around, I'm like, fucking no one's happy. Like everyone is going through the motions.
There's 2 people happy, but the 600 left is like, huh.
Yeah. So I was like, no one's happy, but let me figure it out. Like I have been fortunate enough, to have the savings to be like, let's see how everyone else lives and let's see if I can make it a self-discovery. So I, took that break, went to Europe. I solo traveled there. I did about like 8 to 9 countries. It was a lot,
By yourself, with a backpack?
With a backpack, a 40-liter backpack.
Right.
40-liter tiny backpack. So a 40-liter backpack. Traveled around, made discovery there that unlike a lot of people, I don't like to travel around for a month.
I keep on hearing
people bullshit you like on Instagram that it's like, oh yay, I'm in Athens. This look great. I was like, traveling is a bitch.
Again, that's the reason why it's really good to see a lot of people's perspective about the things that they're doing, because I'm 100% on board because I love traveling.
Yeah.
For the people that follow me on Instagram, there's averaging out there's a trip a month.
Mm-hmm.
But I am not a week traveler, like 1 week or 2 weeks traveler.
It gets a lot.
I mean, well, a lot of it is because of work. I don't want to come back to work and die.
Yeah.
So, but give me a 4-day weekend. Give me a 5-day break.
Yes.
That's perfect for me.
Yeah.
And, I love camping, but I have like a 2-night camping maximum.
Yeah.
We all have our preferences, but it's good to hear.
Yeah. To be honest, like if you like it, you like it, but you can't possibly know until you do it. You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing.
And
that's the important thing.
And that's the purpose of the adult gap year. It's like, let me see what I really like. Like people are like, traveling the world. I was like, fuck this. I went to my hostel at this age and I'm like, fuck hostels. I'm sorry. I can't sleep next to this woman next to me and then a woman over here. And they're like 18 And I was like, fuck this. I'm going into Airbnb. I need a nice bed. Like, I just
Yeah.
couldn't, like, if it was me at 20, maybe, but me at like 35 is not
Again, it to
not
each
my
her
thing.
own, but at
Yeah.
least you found out.
Yeah.
You had full intentions of like really huffing it for or all around Europe for a while.
And I still want to do it, you know, but I want a longer stay in one place so I can relax, so I can get to know the community and even support the community that I'm in, and not just be like, you know, snapping away as like, got the picture, got the picture. And because after a while, like I remember like on the 4th week, I was like, fuck, another statue, fuck, another river, fuck, another, you know, because it's just like, oh, I don't want to, you lose the appreciation. You really lose the appreciation of it.
There are some people that can go into a country, go into a city and rock it in a weekend, find all the good touristy and, you know, monument spots and capture the essence of that city in 2 days. Maybe we're not that people.
Yeah, no.
You know?
And you just need to know. And I think that was it. And so that happened. And then
wait, before we move on, because I know we're gonna have a couple of more points that is, you know, tangential to the gap year, but keeping within the leaving Amazon, planning your. How did you plan this? Did you have?
I need to finish this workbook.
Okay.
So it's called "I Need a Fucking Break." Yeah, it's I want to do a workbook because a lot of people were asking me about it, and I have 3 sections to it. One is understanding your intention and why you want to take it. If you just hate your job, then you need to, or you just hate your boss, like you need to reevaluate why you want to take a gap year. Because I wanted to learn about myself. Okay. You know,
you can't just take a gap year just because, like, no, there needs to be a real purpose.
Because then you're just going to sit around and twiddle your thumbs all day long, you know? So that, and then the middle part and the second part is the biggest, is where it's financials.
There you go. That's where I was going for.
Yeah,
that's where I'm going for.
You know what? When I'm preparing this workbook, and it is so hard because I'm trying to make this free or at least low cost, and I'll probably make it free first just to get kind of the feedback that I needed. But that was the bulk of it. Like that is the bulk of the planning is your money.
I mean, my question was going to be a little bit more crude. Like, what was your dollar amount to get to 12 months of vacation? Like, what were you looking at? Because like
I looked at, you know, to sustain. Okay, I saved money. It's 6 figures. I'm sure because you mentioned you wanted to keep your apartment. Yeah, most people who are gonna go more than a month, you will need to. If you don't have enough money, you can still take the gap year. You would just have to move you out of your apartment back to your mom and dad's house. Not a big deal.
No, it's not a big deal. That's how most people do it.
Yeah, that's how most people do it. But
I like yours way better though. For me, it's like, all right, I'm gonna have X amount of dollars.
Yep.
So I can pay for my rent for X amount of months.
And even then, it was, even prepping for it, I started saving, meaning like I wasn't eating out at, you know, useless places. Like you look at your bills and I was like, fuck, I'm spending at a bodega shop, I'm spending like $250 a month, or just like, you know, running out of work just to grab a salad, because you're spending at least $10. And those $10 add up. $250 a month times that by 12 months.
Damn. I don't know math, but that's more than $2,500.
Same shit with coffee too. I know you make coffee, and so I make my own lattes now, and I make them at home, and they're just as good, if not better. Dope. I took a class. So I still can't do latte art, but so for me, it's just actually learning like everything matters. Every dollar that you keep matters, and that was the bulk of it. And then the last section is, I think the last section is the hardest, is jumping. Period. I've talked to a lot of people that I know make money, that I know have money, and I'm like, no, well, I have this, and you know, maybe in 2 years, and it's just like, if you can't get past that point, you're never gonna do it. And so there's a lot of like fear exercises that you do. So what is, and Tim Ferriss talks about this a lot, and I took it from him, but like, what's the cost of your inaction? What's the cost of you not taking action right now?
Yep.
And that's where I was like, fuck it. Okay, we're saving up. I'm going to do this. I'm going to quit my job. And you know, it's not like I've done this without thinking about it. I've thought about it. So take the plunge.
Yeah, you're gonna have to think about it a lot.
You have to, yeah.
Doing it is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
I'm very guilty of inaction, and I always tell myself like, I'm working really, really hard. I am doing it for me and my teammates that I love. I'm doing it for my future,
Which is great.
Yeah, but like 4 years later, like I'm definitely nowhere near
Nope.
the job that I really wanted it to be.
Right.
So, but still, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very thankful. You know, I have a lot of toys. I have a lot of fun. I have a lot of really good friends.
Yes.
If work is the worst part of my life, that's not too bad because everybody hates work.
No, again, and I agree with that statement. I was like, don't leave work because you're just not satisfied with this one area.
Yeah.
Maybe you're just actually unsatisfied through your entire life, and you need to understand why. And that's where it goes back to like knowing your intention.
Wow.
You know, you love your life, so that's good that you can say that. But a lot of people are like, that's the thing. Most people, I want people to be aware, but when I'm listening to people, I'm like, you're fucking not self-aware. Like your problem stems like way over there.
That just blew my mind. It's like, you know, if you're unsatisfied with work, take a look inside. Maybe you're unsatisfied with your life.
Yes.
And
totally.
Emoji. Mind blown emoji. All right, okay. So that was good. So your workbook will come out at some point. We'll have links on all of my social media and all the posts. We will be definitely pimping that out when it comes out. But at least there's going to be 3 parts. You know, the preparation part, the jumping part, and thinking about it part. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Moving on forward.
Yeah.
We've prepared for our gap year. We've realized what the reasons why we're going to do it. We've been doing it for a little bit. What else has happened the past year?
Yeah. So, I think my timing has been good. Just in life, I think everything, when I follow my gut and my intuition, things go right. So when I was in Lisbon, in Portugal, I've been like trying to FaceTime my parents, you know, and especially now when I had this time, I was like FaceTiming my dad. So I was in Portugal and my dad FaceTimes me and he's in the hospital and it's just like, fuck. And he said, I put myself on DNR, do not resuscitate. And I'm like, okay. And he was like, he had a cardiac arrest, I believe. And I was like, okay. He was like, I died. I was like, okay. And then he was just, and so I was here in Lisbon in my hotel room, FaceTiming him. And he gave me his last dying words. And was just like, oh. And for me, it was like awesome because it kind of reconciled a lot of things. And he was just like really proud of you and what you've done. And, you know, you doing this is what I always dreamed about, even though he was the one that told me about like not to do the gap year. And he was, you know, like not understanding. But then he was like, I understand why you did this. And this
Old school Asian parents.
Yeah. But, you know, part of them are also cheering you on. Mm-hmm. So he's just like, these are the things I wanted to and I never got to do. And I'm glad you're doing it. And I'm like, crying. And so I actually, from there, my trip was about to end anyway. So I flew back home. And I got to spend time I spent like about 3 months with my dad as he got better, as he was rehabilitating. And that was it. And, you know, he passed with flying colors. He was great. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, as you're kind of rehabilitating, now I'm off to Vietnam.
You've recovered.
Recovered. Like
now
he's
back
in
to
good
gap
hands.
year.
Now back again. I was originally supposed to go with my mom and my sister, but because of my dad, my mom stayed back. And on my mom's side, everyone's still there in Vietnam. So going back home and just kind of
for the audio listeners, Tawn is of Vietnamese descent. Sorry.
Yeah.
Audio podcast.
Yes.
But okay, Tawn Le.
Yes, right, is a Vietnamese descent. Yes. Right. So I went back and you kind of start understanding everything again. Like you see your family and you're connecting with them and you're laughing and you're eating and you're connecting with your roots, and you're also reconciling the American part of you of the Vietnam War and also the Vietnamese part of you that's originally from there. So where my aunt lives is Vũng Tàu, which I didn't know until recently that my dad was actually captured there in the mountains or in the hills. And so when I was there, and this is before I knew everything, but when I was there, I was just sitting and just wondering, like, seeing both sides. Like, this is a place where people escaped. This is a place where people got shot, died, for what? Like, and you can kind of see from the American side and then from their side what was happening. I mean, Vietnam is a place that has been warring for decades, centuries already. People want to take over that land. So it's a bunch of intruders all the time. And so they had it very right to defend their land. And other people, you know, didn't want the whole communism thing to like spread. And so most people weren't even that lived there, weren't even aware of the whole communism scare factor. For them, they were just like, oh, fuck. Another person's trying to take over our lands, you know, and then the other side's like understands a little bit more about like, well, we want this to be a democracy and that's what we're fighting for. And so it's finally getting to a point where like, to be honest, I get both sides. Like I just do. And you just sit there and you're like, fuck, everyone's right. Everyone's wrong. Mm-hmm. And that was a theme that I kept seeing. And then just this whole concept of everything is it's different sides of the same coin.
Yep.
Is kind of my little aha moment. And I had a picture too that I took when I was in Singapore, because I went there for Thanksgiving just to kind of spend time there. My friends met me up there and we spent Thanksgiving in Singapore. But in this specific backdrop, there's two monks standing next to a huge ass Louis Vuitton store, you know, looking over the water. And to me, I'm just like, if this isn't two sides of the same coin, I don't know what is. Like, you have someone so ascetic and then you have something that's so like bougie and money. And it was just really funny to me just to see that. And it's to be like the stamp of my learning is like, everything's a spectrum. Everything's this, you know, on different side of the same coin. And I think for me, that kind of centered around just humans and our connectedness with each other. Everything is like a ripple effect. Everything impacts everything, which then I guess takes me to 2019. And my dad went back. Oh, I'm gonna get emotional. Yeah.
Wow, first time.
Yeah. So, oh my God.
Ooh.
Whew. So I get back. Dad's back in the hospital. Oh my God. And he didn't make it, but the most beautiful part was that I got this gap year has given me the opportunity just to spend so much time with him, you know, and had I not taken this year, because I just think like, had I not taken the leap, had I not taken this year, I would have never been able to be with him and to get these stories and to be with my family. And my aunt is like 85 too, so I'm jumping all over the place here, but in general, it's just, I wouldn't have had this opportunity to be with the people, to do the things that I wanted, had I not taken this year. And my dad was awesome. You know, the few days before he passed away, and we didn't know, we thought he was getting better. And he was like, you know, he would put like two fingers up, and at this point he could barely talk. Like, getting 3 words out was a lot of energy for him. But he was like, I'll die in 2 days. And I'm like, okay. So the Asian New Year, or the Lunar New Year, not Asian New Year's, the Lunar New Year's was coming up. And on that Lunar New Year, he did that one finger where he was like, one more day. And so, but, you know, I I was already trying to prepare for it. I was reading books about it, you know, death and trying to deal with it. And for me, it's like, you know, death comes and you don't want to be sad for them. So for me, I'm like, Dad, we're gonna, you know, we're gonna be fine. And if are you ready to go? He's like, yes. I was like, cool. We'll give you a funeral. This funeral will be so fun. And
That's a good term.
Yeah,
That's a good term.
funeral. And so in his last few days with the Lunar New Year, you welcome your ancestors back, you know, from wherever into your home. So, I mean, yeah, my sister thought it was a little weird. But she was like, why are you saying that? I'm like, well, our ancestors are here. And it's like, Dad, if you go, they'll be with you. Mm-hmm. And that's the coolest way to like leave. And so, but I didn't know. I was just like, that let's just get stronger. And so when you are about to leave this earth, it'll be easier. Yeah. So I told him that on Lunar New Year's for dinner when we're eating, because he was like, I just want to go. Like he's like ready to go. He was like, I'm ready to die. So that night I remember the nurses coming in, and I actually got to, during this whole time I got to stay with my dad, like in the hospital, except for the last night my mom stayed with him, but I did see him that early morning before. But the nurse came in and they're like, his vitals are great, like everything's great. I'm like, look, Dad. See? And of course, the next day, he passes away. I'm like, motherfucker. You know?
He told you, though.
He was
told
like,
you.
He was like, I told you. I was like, all right.
Dad knows.
Oh, Dad.
The thing that I was like thinking about a lot when, you know, I saw your posts about your dad's celebration of life and passing away is that the gap year is fun. Gap year is very introspective. You'll get a lot of things that will fuel you for the future. Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
The thing that I was really amazed about is that's why, you know, when we started the show, it's like the timing of it was kind of perfect.
Yeah.
A lot of people's parents pass. Everybody's parents will pass away at some point.
All of us.
We're all going to die.
We are not the exception to the rule.
They're going to die. We're going to die. Our kids are going to die. That's happens.
Yep.
Sorry to be morose.
No, but it is true.
A lot of us, like, you know, my family is, you know, dealing through some health issues as well. And I've been trying to mentally and emotionally prepare for things that are going to happen at some point in the future. Yes. But the thing that I could never reconcile is, of course, I'll be working. Of course, I'll I'll have responsibilities when those things happen. So my fear is I will not be able to provide the correct amount of attention on anything that I'll be doing. Yeah. So knock on wood, close family member of mine gets ill or gets sick. Of course, I'm gonna go home. Of course, I'm gonna take time off at work. But that's the thing. Gonna take time off work. So when I'm at, you know, my family or my friends' presence, I'll be thinking about, holy shit, I'm gonna go back to so many shits. I have to fix all of this. I'm gonna catch up on all of the things, and then I come back. I'm going to have to catch up. I'm going to be tired again. If it happens again, I'm going to leave again. So it's never going to be like my entire presence, I hope, will seem to be for the person or people that I'm visiting for, which hasn't been happening in a long time. Yeah. Like every time I visit home, I'll be like, the first 4 days is fun. I love my family. I love hanging out with my nephews. Yeah. But on the 5th, 6th day, it's like, holy shit, I have like 600 emails.
Yeah.
So, you know, you being in your gap here, I would hope that all of the attention was for that.
For sure. And here's the other thing. Here's what makes it so great. Again, this is about self-discovery also, right? I don't want a job that doesn't let me take this time. Mm-hmm. Like I've decided, I was like, fuck this shit. Like I don't want to ever be in a position where I'm like, oh, I have to go back to work. Mm-hmm. Like I want to be in a position or whatever my next job is. I want the flexibility. I want to be able to work from home. I want to be able to work anywhere. What it is, I don't know. Mm. And that's part of the beauty of this year is I'm still trying to figure it out. But I don't want to be held by my job. And that is now like a rule that I have for myself given this year, where I'm like, oh fuck, I had this opportunity and it felt great. Like it felt good to be like home. So yeah, that's my whole thing is I just and you know, with his passing, I'm like, oh, I forgot. You know, we all forget life is short.
Yep.
And you know, I was so proud. I was just proud of him, and then I was so honored to have done his eulogy, where I did talk about just life coming and going. But the thing that I really wanted to hit home was we're all connected. Every ripple has an impact on us. And my dad, you know, whether he was right or wrong, at least he was thoughtful in everything that he did with his life. And that's something that I took, where I'm like, at least have your intention, at least have your why, and know that we all have, you know, an impact on each other. If I said some shitty things to you, it'll ruin your day, and you might say something to someone else. So yes, even the things that we say to each other has this just domino effect. And we live in Manhattan. We live in New York City. Domino effects are happening every single day, you know?
So you breathe and you're affecting somebody else. So, no, that's
true. Yeah.
That's super powerful. I think I'm going to have to make that the episode title, Know Your Why, because it's very important.
Yeah.
Hey, if your why sucks, if it's you, go.
Yeah.
It's you. Live your life.
That's what I say. You know, when some people are like miserable at the job, it's like, here's the job.
It's your job.
It's your job.
Yeah. If you want to be
don't
miserable,
like
be
it,
miserable.
yeah, then
I think you like getting a paycheck, but you know, that's
I was like, you can get a paycheck anywhere. And again, the beauty of the gap year, I've met people outside of the industry. You know, like, you know, people outside of the industry. People can make money in whatever ways. Like, I know someone that works in retail and they picked up another job debt free. Can you know, tell me another person that in corporate, most people are in debt? Like, they have stuff because they have a lifestyle they want to achieve. So for me, it's like, now that I'm out and you're meeting Pilates teacher, you're meeting tarot card readers, you're meeting like all these different people, you're like, oh, there's so many ways to make money that can make you still happy.
That's true. Again, we're not saying that you can't be happy sitting in front of a desk making Excel sheets.
Yes.
If that makes you happy, if that provides you the life that you want to live,
yes,
great.
Yes,
you know,
have
just
a hobby.
That's the main purpose of this.
Yes.
Have a hobby.
You need. Everyone needs to play.
And
everyone needs to
maybe
play.
your hobby aligns with the things that you do in your day job. Maybe it aligns with the things that you do in your night job. But again, know your why and why you're doing your things. That's super powerful.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Which is a good segue.
Good.
To our next. You alluded to this a couple of seconds ago about your trip in Singapore. So meeting your friends, seeing monks, and in front of buildings.
Yeah.
So I usually ask my guests to send me their favorite images.
Yeah.
So what Tawn was describing a while ago was one of the photos that she sent.
Yeah.
And which is good because she sent multiple images, and it'll also segue to the next segments, which is other passions. So one more time, describe in detail for our audio listeners what they will say. For the ones watching on YouTube, you're going to see a splash of that image right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. See it? See it right there? Right there? Right there. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's an image of...
It's just, you know, Singapore's money, you know, crazy rich Asians. Like... That's why we went. We're like, we're gonna crazy rich Asian this up, you know? And it's still one of my favorite images because, again, I talk about life and I talk about things being two sides of the same coin. And what better image can you look at is with someone that is leading a life of just asceticism. And then you look at the backdrop or the backdrop of it, which is just Louis Vuitton and spending money and having an image of wealth. And I just thought it was just beautiful.
Hey,
I
I
think,
get.
yeah.
It's a very cool image of a group of monks in
Yeah.
colorful robes, maybe like mostly orange
Yeah.
and brown, in the
Yeah.
foreground, and in the background are a bunch of buildings, most prominently Louis Vuitton
Yeah.
sign building.
Yeah.
Um, I like it aesthetically, as a person that practices a little bit of photography, is that
Yeah.
the contrast of color, because the robes are super colorful, but it's all like concrete and then white buildings or glass and metal and white background. So the
Yeah.
monks do pop. The
Yeah.
crop that we have right now is a square crop because it's was from Instagram.
Instagram, yeah.
So it's a technically good image.
Oh,
I like it,
thanks.
but also the message is
Yeah.
important. We're gonna move on to the next image that you sent,
Okay.
and after these sets of images, we'll talk about your next passion. But
Oh, okay.
tell us the thinking, and maybe run through the listeners what the joke is through this
Oh my god.
2-panel comic of sticky situations.
Yeah, so appropriation is a really big topic within the POC community, so people of color. And I think in my community and the friends that I'm with, this is like an ongoing discussion. Like, I don't think white people often have, maybe they have a discussion of like, like gender and whatnot. But for us, like, we have this ongoing, like, I think this is like a daily conversation. Like, oh my God, did you see that? Like, they just took this like wasa thing, or Vietnamese call like gao ya, and now it's like the new latest wellness trend. Or oh my God, like everyone's so fucking into yoga, and they've taken this, and I don't know if bastardized or change or whatever it is, but you see it all the time where you go to Coachella. I'm sure there's someone with like feathers and like, all these headpieces that belong to like indigenous people. And now it's like a fucking fashion statement, and it's one of those things where it's like inspired by that. But, with the 2016 election, and I think people that were oftentimes in privilege now noticing those small dynamics of like either racism or sexism or something, it's now kind of gotten, I guess people are more aware of it. So I just thought it was funny. Like, it's an image of two people. One is like a white person, and then one is, I guess, me. I haven't named this character yet, but we're watching TV, and the latest greatest thing now, if you guys know about beauty trends, is freckles.
I've always loved freckles, though. That was my thing.
Yeah, no. So it has, it's like it's a redhead. And so, she's like, oh my God, is this what appropriation feels like? Because, as she's growing up, I'm sure they've been made fun of. I'm sure, like, it wasn't like this, a long time ago during my generation, it was like, oh, if you had freckles, you need to like put lemon on your face, and you need to make sure that stuff like whitens out so that you can have nice fair skin. And I remember even just like my friends who are redheaded, I mean, they're just freckled and they're just like, and being made fun of. But it's funny because it was just like, well, now it's the in thing, and they're like, well, fuck, It's like, that's what appropriation. I was like, yes, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with trends. I remember growing up, I was very lucky that most of my friends were nerdy or semi-nerdy like myself. So we kind of protected each other because back then, 15, 20 years ago, 20, 25 years ago, shit.
We old.
Fuck. So 20, 25 years ago, being smart was only useful during tests, so cool people can sit beside you and copy your exam. But now, if you're nerdy, if you have like, ooh, I have a comic book collection, it's like, oh, there's a burlesque show for that, there's a band for that, there's a con for that. So, for those maybe so the things that kids think that are really tough right now, stick by it. Make sure it's your why.
Yeah.
And then maybe in 15, 20 years, hopefully those people that made fun of you will eat their words.
Yeah. And they usually do.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Okay. Last, the last image that Tawn sent is technically a 3-panel comic, sticky situations again. I'll let you run through it because I think you will be way more suited to describe how this works.
Yeah, so this is my dad's funeral. So we cremated my father. And my nephew, my adorable nephew Hudson, is 4 years old. And, you know, when you talk to children, you try to use words that they understand. But sometimes I was so good at using words that I freaked him out and didn't realize that he had no concept of death. And so it starts off with, he's like, what are they doing to grandpa? Because he saw grandpa in the casket. And then he's like, what are they doing? I was like, they're burning him. Instead of like, I was like, he's not going to know what cremating means. So I was like, they're going to burn grandpa. And so this is based on a true story. Some of this stuff is just inspired, but this one was a true story. And he's just up against that window, watching that casket, like starting to go. He's like, no. And he was like, yo, don't burn grandpa. Because he knows what burn means. And I'm just like, fuck. I did it too well. And, you know? And so he's just like, so he doesn't, as a 4-year-old, you can't process these things. You don't know what death is.
100%.
Yeah. So it's just like, what the fuck? And so my sister sent me a text like only a few weeks ago. She's like, so he thought about that time again. And he was like, why did they burn grandpa? And so his mom had to be like, did you see fire? He's like, no. He's like, did you see your dad turning the key? He's like, yes. He's like, it's opening the door to heaven.
Oh,
you know?
Okay.
So
I would have done the same. It's like, yeah, so when you die, you either get buried so insects can eat you.
Either way, it's
burn
not, you know, it's like, so for someone that doesn't have kids, like, I don't know, like, these things.
There's certain levels where you need to
so I know the
trickle
level.
the information.
Yes, so for me, I was like, so in my head, I was like, the level is that I need to make this understandable. But then I didn't, as someone with no kids, I don't think of it like, they don't conceptually get it.
Sure.
So then you need to, so I was like, they're burning him. Okay. He clearly got that. Like that was, and then, you know, the whole Eli, like, or the explain it like I'm 5. Like
yeah. So that was my next question, because in the panel, again, click on the episode description to see the actual image, or go to the podcast website, or watch this on YouTube or the podcast TV to see the actual images. But it says Elise. So ELI means, all right, now I'm educated because I never explain it like I'm 5.
Yeah, so it's a Reddit section, and Reddit's great. Reddit is like an amazing community, and you can learn so much. And there's a section called Explain It Like I'm 5. And you can ask whatever you want, and people are genuinely trying to make this as understandable and accessible as possible. So I remember I took a course one time a few years ago about like networks, like networking systems. And I was like, I don't understand how to, you know, what routers and this and that is. And I just remember people within like 5 minutes, it's like you're driving on a highway and you've reached and I'm like, oh, now I get it. So it's an amazing way for like people to help other people understand. And I don't want to say dumbing down the language, because that makes that person seem dumb.
It's articulation.
You just don't have that language because you're not around that community all the time. And with anything that I do, and even at work, I try not to use language that is like either academic or like within the industry, because you want to make sure people understand. And most of the stuff people hide as smart behind big words that really anyone, if you explain it, can understand. So Eli 5.
Okay. So those are the 3 images. Favorite. Oh, sirens are on our end, by the way. The 3 images that Tawn sent me as her favorite images. I like doing this because, again, I connect with other people's passion through my passion, and knowing how people captures memories or images, creates memories too, is very important for me. One thing that I didn't tell them though, when I give them a primer to be on the guest on the show, is I too will be picking my favorite image of them
Oh
in
shit.
their area. So I stalked Tawn's Facebook profile,
Oh god.
Instagram, both Sticky Situations and her personal. And this one was my favorite.
Okay.
So I don't know what this is, who drew it, but I like it aesthetically first. So I'm going to describe it for the
Okay.
audio listeners, and then
Okay.
you'll have a few seconds to really think about what it means, or you just doodled.
Yeah.
But it seems like a doodle drawing of a portrait of a lady, squiggly lines
Mm.
about with a blue dot on the head, a green dot on the chest. So
Mm.
that kind of felt like, oh, this must have meaning. As somebody like me who's not super smart doesn't know what this
No,
means,
no, no,
but
no, no, no.
so explain this. I'm assuming a self portrait of
Yeah,
you. Oh,
yeah,
poof,
yeah, yeah,
me
yeah.
artist. What's up?
Woo!
All right, so tell the people a little bit about it, what it means, how you drew it, what are your tools.
So I have an iPad Pro and I use Procreate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do all of my drawings and sticky situations on that. It's great. Like ever since I got it, I was like, oh, sweet. I don't have to digitize anything anymore. But that is a self portrait. And then the two dots is one is kind of like the head and the other is the heart. And I think for me personally, you lead with your heart and your mind is a servant to your heart. You know, like your heart is not the servant to your mind. And so, and it has more meanings than that. But right now, at this time, it's you lead with your heart, and then your mind is this beautiful thing that can plan and that can figure out the situations on how to implement what you feel. I think the problem that a lot of us have, and I have this all the time, so I'm not the exception again, is that we think too much. We're in our heads, we're overthinking, and we ignore this space, we ignore our heart, we ignore our gut, we ignore things that our years of experience has led us to like know what to do. And then in our heads we have this conversation about what we should do, why we should do it, what are the pros and cons of it, like blah blah blah. Like it goes into this whole thing where you then just end up doing the safe thing. You end up doing the prescribed thing. You end up doing things in a very robotic way, and so for me, that's also a reminder of what brings you happiness. You know, like this gap year, if anything, has been literally me being on summer vacation as an 8-year-old girl. I'm drawing that. Like I did this in my summer vacation. Like I would just like doodle. I would make stop motion. I would make up little dance routines at home.
And you still
I
do.
would, and I still do. and that's the thing. It's just like everything that I still love now, I loved as a kid, and it's just reconnecting back to what made me happy. And to be honest, again, I love people. Like I like being with people, and that's why for me being with people is like I have to have it. And I like talking to people and I like hearing their stories. And now it's just kind of taking that space and moving forward and knowing that I'm smart enough now. Like I feel like I think I've always been smart in terms, I know this is not like a arrogant thing, but I'm smart enough that I know myself and that I know what to do. I just now need to lead with what makes me like happy.
Yeah. A line that I heard way long ago in probably some very crappy B movie was, the longest distance to connect is between the heart and the mind. And so it's good that there are people that are still attempting. I do have friends and people in my immediate circle that are doing the things that they're trying to do, rightly or wrongly, successfully or not. But the
Yeah.
thing is, they're doing it.
They're doing
And
it.
most people aren't.
I agree. I think most people will not take the leap,
That's true.
but they can.
They can. Everybody can. I think it's just,
Yeah.
some people might need a little bit more work than others, but
Yeah.
you can. Hopefully you have friends and family that can help you out
Yeah.
and support you do
Yeah.
the things.
Exactly.
Which leads us towards the tail end of the episode. It's a long episode, but I'm learning so much as
Good.
usual. But before we do all the outro stuff and whatever, we want to do the TFP portion of the segment. It's the trade for passion. So we've talked about
Okay.
you're the corporate shill that left and did your gap year,
Mm-hmm.
looked inside you, had wonderful time with family,
Mm-hmm.
experienced people, and now, before we end, just let people know your two new passions, what they are,
Oof.
what do
Yeah.
you do with them, and
Yeah.
yeah, and then I just because again, I'm also in admiration of people that do too many things.
Yeah.
People think that I do a lot of things. No, I only do work, and then
No,
I
you do
sometimes I
stuff.
photograph.
Shut
For the
up. Or
most part, else I sit and chat with my friends.
which is just as good. Just as good. Cool. So I've realized that I am big into people. And so before I left, I was looking more inwards and trying different modalities or just different things to be well. So to try to exercise, you would go to a gym. To try to quiet your mind, you would meditate. And what are the other things that can help you chill out? And so I came across Reiki during kind of my metamorphosis period, and it felt really good. It's just life energy and just healing with that. And it's called Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I am practicing Reiki. I actually practice at Minka, Brooklyn. So it's really cool. And
So close here.
yeah,
This
it's
is
so
awesome.
close to here. And the one reason, or there's many reasons, but the one reason I really love Minka is that they have community Reiki and community acupuncture. And a lot of what they believe in is that wellness shouldn't be inaccessible.
100%.
So that already drew me into them. And I believe that too. And I believe that everyone can heal themselves and everyone can you still have to take the responsibility of doing it. But I do practice it. And it's been so amazing in just what people say, like, oh, I love getting hugs after it, and I love when people are like, dude, I feel better, like my back feels better, or I'm a lot calmer this morning. But it's just a way to kind of rebalance yourself. Because I think everything is energy. Again, everything is ripple, everything is
Yep.
energy. And when your insides is all like fucked up, you're at an imbalance. So Reiki is a great way to kind of just balance all your chakras and balance you. And so that is one thing that I actually like doing. I will continue doing. And that's something that I found out that my father learned
Oh,
as well. It's a different type of energy healing. I need to look more into it, but
chakras and chi.
yeah, chakras and cheese and just, and we were talking about it. And that was one of our common points that I found before, his death, was that he was doing mostly for himself.
Mhm.
But still he had a passion for it and he understood what it meant. And then the other thing I'm still trying to figure out is, the creativity. So the reason why I do sticky situations is trying to highlight in a funny manner just life in and of itself as like a woman, a POC, whatnot. And something that I want to work on, and I've been working on with Kim Young out in LA, is we're trying to
Shout
figure out. Yeah, shout out. We're still at the beginning phases of things, so I can't go too much into it. But we want to bring stories out of like women of color, of this friendship and what it means of how we interact with the world, and we want to do it in a short form type of way. And so with Sticky Situation, it's trying to help me hone the story in a really small time and space or area. And
2 to 4 panels.
yeah, 2 to 4 panels. And for us, we're going to try to do that too. But we want to tell, another side of the story. Like we want to talk about friendship. We want to talk about what it's like to, be a woman of color dating and what that means in our community, what our friends are thinking, what our friends from the same race is thinking, what our parents are, like things like that.
People
We're-
people that people like us.
yeah.
We do talk about it. We do
We
talk
talk
about
about
it by our
all the
friends.
time.
But it's we're luckily in a time where it's acceptable or actually even preferred to for you to peek into other people's other cultures to see how it works. Maybe hey, we have the same things,
And the
or
thing
it's like,
we do,
or like, guys, you're weird. Or it's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm never gonna date this person because of that. But
Yeah.
the idea is like, yeah, we're at a
Yeah.
time right now where
Yeah.
it's not considered taboo, or it's not
Yes.
considered nosy if you want to know about your neighbor's shit.
Yeah, and I think we have to have storylines to kind of illustrate that. And I'm always surprised when people are like, "You do that?" or you're like, "Your culture does that." Like, we do it all the
Yep.
time. Like, don't you like no? It's like, how have you sat next to me all these years and you don't know like the inner workings of my life? I know the inner working of your life. I think I do. You know?
Some people don't
Yeah.
want to know
Yeah.
anything beyond their own domain.
Yeah, but I think we're at a point where people are now open. They're open to seeing how, an interracial family is living.
Mhm.
They're open to seeing, like, someone from the LGBTQIA community living. Like, they want to know these stories. But the cool part of all of these stories is that there's some connecting point to you
100%.
which makes you not that different from them. Yes, we might eat differently. There might be some cultural stuff that's different. But at the end of the day, the heart's the heart,
Mhm.
and we're struggling too, and everyone is struggling in their own different way. So again, I'm excited to work on this project with her, and I don't know where it's going to take us. We're still at the beginning, but Miss Kim Young is super talented, and I'm excited to be working with her.
Yeah, my only question is, why is there two underscores with sticky underscores? Is it because sticky underscore situation was taken?
Yes.
God damn it!
I know it's true. I was like, fuck, but I want sticky situation. So I was gunned down on this name, and so when I added another underscore, it worked.
Gotcha. Oh, we'll have to like request for that sticky underscore situation or sticky situation person to relinquish it once you have more comics.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, in researching this episode, and of course we've been buddies for a very long time.
Yeah,
I've been seeing a few of those things, and I was very pleased that you picked the freckle one,
Good.
because like that was one of my favorites, only because I love freckles.
Yes,
That's my
I know.
thing.
I know you do.
It's my thing. God damn
Yeah.
it. So
Redheads.
redheads,
Your
tall,
redheads are your thing.
freckled, redheads are my thing. But in summary, like your gap year hopefully is reaching more people. It
I
has
hope
reached
so.
me. I'm sure most of
Yeah.
your friends have looked at it sideways, upwards, and down. So, whether the listeners out there agree or disagree, the thing is, you try. You need to do
Yeah.
things that will while you can.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet, and
Yeah.
I've been working on a 1 month vacation.
Yeah.
Just
And it's okay. Little things
Yeah,
are
it's-
just as good.
but it's teaching and showing me a lot of different things about myself and the work, about why do I need a month vacation? Because I'm beat up. Like my brain is shot.
yeah.
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 And I've always thought, it's like, I'm the guy, I'm the macho. If I leave, this team will break down. It
Mhm.
will, but it's
who cares?
who cares?
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It's like,
They
if
will hire someone
100%.
else.
And it's
Yeah.
like, but that's the thing too. It's like, who cares? I care. And why do I care? Why should I put my care here? I need to
Yeah.
put my care in things and projects that will actually, hopefully, number one, entertain me, but
Yeah.
also entertain maybe at
Yeah.
least two more other people.
And here's the other thing. Everyone that I left the job with, I'm still friends with.
You're
Like,
probably more friends now because you have time to hang out
well,
with.
that's true. But I was just like, I'm not losing people because I left them. Like, I wasn't a jackass to anyone, or at least I hope not, guys. But if you cared about that much, they'll still be in your life.
Yep.
So
I mean, that's the thing. People who want to be with you will be with you.
Yeah.
If they don't want to be with you, they'll have an excuse.
yeah,
All right. If they don't want to be with you, they'll have an excuse, and if they want to be with you, they'll make
Yeah.
a reason.
yeah,
Right.
yep, exactly.
Well, Tonley,
thank you.
thank you so much for your time and your energy.
Yay.
Please tell the 4 other listeners of this podcast where they can reach you.
yeah,
What is your preferable stalking of choice?
yeah,
So that they can engage with your work, both in a creative sense or in a healing sense?
Everything is, I guess, tin_Tawn is probably the best place. So I have a link tree there, and you can just like go to all the others.
Tin spelled as
THINH_TAWN. Tin, like thin with an H at the end.
Mhm.
That's my real name, guys. So tin, like THINH_Tawn, TAWN.
All right, and then I read sticky situations a lot at sticky___ situations.
I'm glad you caught that.
I that thing I was like I'm big on branding,
Yeah.
and even when making this podcast, I was
Yeah.
like, shit, somebody got fun shoot. So yeah, fine, I'll do fun shoot podcast, whatever.
Yeah.
But you know what? As long as it works, your brand is your brand.
Yeah.
Wait, you do have a blog too,
Yes. Diaryofandoldmillennial.com.
right?
Yes.
So she writes there.
yeah.
She does comics at Sticky Situations. She does Reiki at Minka Brooklyn.
Yes.
All the links will be on the podcast description and on the website so that you hopefully can support her and her work. And thank you, the listener out there. This is the Fun Shoot podcast. We will have new episodes again most Wednesdays on all the favorite podcasting services of your choice. For those listening through iTunes, Apple Podcast, we would love it. We would love if you would, leave a star rating and some comments. It will greatly help the content and the future of this podcast. Please visit the Fun Shoot podcast at bit.ly/funshoot or jongclemente.com/funshoot. All the episodes, all the images are there of the things that we've discussed. Links to our guests' amazing work and passions will be there too. Don't forget to follow and comment on the podcast Twitter, Instagram accounts at Funshoot Podcast. Leave us your comments and questions at funshootpodcast@gmail.com. Again, if you want to be on the show, leave us a voicemail at 347-934-9594. And if you don't want to all do any of those and you just want to watch again, if you have one of those VPN offices that can only have YouTube,